Figured today I'd make a hopefully quick video on the 1500-hour rule. So basically, my opinion, the 1500-hour rule has a lot, not totally, but a lot to do with the pilot shortage that we have now. Essentially, this rule is made to prevent low-time guys from getting into the right seat at a regional or major airline. And the odds of a low-time guy getting into the right seat at a major, even prior to the 1500-hour rule, which I don't even know if that was even a thing, but anyways, that's the purpose of it, right? And this is all due to the Colgan Air accident. They determined that due to the low flight time of the crew, and along with the fatigue and pilot error, that it all led to the perfect combination for the plane to crash. And through investigation, they said, hey, well, along with other stuff, we want this 1500-hour rule back, requiring pilots for 121 carriers to have a ATP license, which requires 1500 hours. A lot of you guys may know already that there is an exemption to that, so to speak. You can have your restricted ATP, which you can get in a variety of ways. One of the most popular ones being going to a college that allows you to get it at, there's like a few that let you get it at 1,000 hours, some let you get it at 1,200 hours, 1,250 hours, I think. And then there's also a different variety of ways you can get that. The only downside with the restricted ATP is you can't upgrade, right? So you're not eligible to be a captain with the restricted ATP. So that's kind of some background on that. Now the key that you got, a lot of the things that you guys are wondering now is, well, okay, I don't have 1,500 hours, so how am I sitting right seat at a airline, so to speak, when I don't have 1,500 hours and I don't have my ATP or my restricted ATP? So let me give you guys some background for me. There's two reasons why I don't have my ATP or my restricted ATP. One being I don't have enough hours yet. Okay. Two being I am not old enough. So I'm 19. To get my restricted ATP, I need 21. I need to be 21 years old, and to get my ATP, I need to be 23 years old. So that's why I cannot upgrade at Jet Suite until I am 23 years old. Because in order for me to become a captain, I need to have an ATP. In order for me to get an ATP, I have to be 23 years old. So that's why I'm at. That's why I have such a long gap between now and my upgrade time. Because by 23, I'm gonna have well over 1,500 hours. And most of that will be in the ERJ, so I'll be more than qualified, hopefully, to be captain. So the question is, okay, well, how did I end up getting into the right seat, anyways, flying a jet, right? And this is where you kind of just gotta examine the system and see if there's any ways around that. So the best way to get around the 1,500-hour rule, give or take, is say you don't want to flight instruct and you don't want to build up 1,500 hours. And you want to start flying for maybe like for a charter company or an airline or whatever. The best way to go about that is looking for Part 135 operators in your area. And again, guys, that is Part 135. 135. Okay. Part 135 operators do not require you legally to have 1,500 hours to be in the right seat. With that being said, there's exceptions to every rule. There are some Part 135 carriers that do require you to have 1,500 hours, but it's not really a legal thing. It is a company policy thing, you feel me? With that being said, that's how I got to Jet Suite, because the 1,500 hours that Jet Suite requires on their website is not a legal requirement. It's a company thing, right? So if they want to, they could easily hire people below or above the hour minimums, as long as those applicants meet the qualifications to be a first officer as listed in Part 135, right? So that's a new standard you're being held to if you want to work for a 135 company, not the 1,500-hour rule. But do not forget this, guys. With some 135 operators, depending upon, I think it's listed in op specs maybe, and in the regs as well. Or I might just read the regs, I don't remember. It'll specify the requirements that a captain has to have, right? So for some 135 carriers, you are required to have an ATP license. And for other ones, you are not required to have an ATP license. I don't want to name specific ones because I'm not exactly 100% sure which ones they are and are not. I just know that they exist. When I was looking at some other jobs prior to Jet Suite, I found some places in which I believed I would have been eligible to upgrade as a captain for the age of 23. But it would have been just like single engine time in unstable companies. So I decided to opt for Jet Suite X, and they were the first who called, so I was like, let's go. That ain't gonna be a problem. But anyways, so yeah, guys, so yeah, 1,500-hour rule. The biggest thing you need to know is if you want to get past it, you really only you have two options, right? You can either go to a 135 carrier, and if you know somebody in there, you really got an interview, you can get yourself into that, and you can start building those hours. Or you could just, I don't know, pay for a flight training on the side. If you don't want to flight instruct, there's options to, I know guys do like aerial surveying. I'm not exactly sure what that consists of, but from my knowledge, you kind of just take a plane up and you take pictures of the landscape. I could be completely wrong, but that's kind of what I heard what it is. I've never done it before. I don't think I know anybody personally who does it either, so I haven't really had the interest to ask about it because it was never something that I really looked into that much. But you can do that. You can do banner towing, flying one of those small single engine planes up and towing around a little banner around the city. That's a good way to build your hours. A lot of people go into skydiving operations, so they go out and they fly the skydivers. I mean, there's a variety of different ways you can get your 1,500 hours without flight instructing. You just kind of have to look, right? And really, you want to start preparing yourself for the 1,500 hours at the beginning of your training, because I've seen this a lot, guys. What happens is people... Sorry about this, guys. What happens is people go and they think, okay, well, all I need to have to get to the regionals is 1,500 hours, right? As soon as I get that 1,500 hours in my book, I'm good. What they don't realize is there's actually more to it than that, right? So I'm looking up the regulation right now. Alright, here it is, guys. So back to what I was saying. 1,500 hours starts back when you're private. You want to really start building yourself and lining yourself up to have that 1,500 hours, right? So if you go to 61-159, all right, and you kind of just read over this regulation, what this is going to do is going to tell you the aeronautical experience required to get your ATP license. You feel me? And it's going to break down exactly what that 1,500 hours needs to consist of, because you can't just write 1,500 hours in your by the way, this is a little pamphlet we get from CAE that has all the limitations of the aircraft in it for the ERJ. It's kind of thick. Anyways, you go to this regulation and it will break down specifically how many of each type of hours you need within that 1,500 hours in order to be eligible for the ATP. What happens to a lot of flight instructors and a lot of guys who didn't start early is that they get these 1,500 hours, and then when they want to go to the regionals, they're like, we can't take you because you don't have enough this time or that time or this time. And if we go through this really quickly, we can see in 61-159 Alpha, otherwise known as A, that of the 1,500 hours, right, you have to have 500 hours of cross country, 100 hours of nighttime, 50 hours of flight time in the class of airplane sought for the rating. I'm sorry about my English. 75 hours of instrument time. I mean, it really breaks it down to what you need and how much of it you need, right? And so if you don't have all that, then unfortunately you're not going to be eligible for the ATP. And that's a situation that you're not going to want to get yourself into, because it's going to be horrible to get 1,500 hours, and then when you get to 1,500 hours, it's like, oh man, I'm missing cross-country time, or oh man, I'm missing nighttime. And that's why I've said in other videos that it's important that your flight instructor, when you're a student, and that you as a flight instructor diversify your time as a student and with your student, right? So when you are a flight student, go out and get that extra flight time at night. Go out and make as many flights as you can, cross-country flights. When you're a flight instructor, take your students on cross-country flights more often, whenever you can. Go on night flights more often. This is a win-win for everybody. It's going to make sure that you have the hours that you need to upgrade, not upgrade, but get your ATP. And it's going to also do the same thing for your students, because they're starting off early getting these hours, which is going to help them all out when it's time to move over to get their ATP and when they're a flight instructor, you know. So it's really win-win for everybody. A lot of times students complain, and flight instructors say, oh, well, it costs them a little bit extra, it costs them this, costs them that. I mean, honestly, it adds, depending upon how far you have to go, usually it adds maybe 20 minutes to the flight, you know. Which, don't get me wrong, flight training is expensive, but in exchange, you're not going to have to go back later on and waste time trying to just get these hours. Because I know guys who had to end up going on time builds to build the hours that they needed in order to upgrade to get their ATP. So it's just easier to knock it out while you're still a student, or encompass it into your flight anyways, and get that over with. Or if you're already an instructor, make sure you're combining that diversified flight time to get the hours that you need. You feel me? Alright guys, so that's enough of me rambling on and talking. I have to start getting ready for my flight. So, questions, comments, concerns, leave them below. I'm going to try to edit this video, but if I don't, I'm sorry for that long pause in the middle. And yeah guys, I will see you on the next video.